All right, mates, welcome back. Welcome back to the channel, J.L. Scott Fishing and Eats. We're going to talk about the New River. Okay, part two of the New River. You can check out, I'll link out part one I did a couple weeks ago, which covered the New River on the West Virginia side of the line, mostly the National Gorge Park and all that stuff, which is a great place for people to vacation to. And that's why I'm doing this video, because a lot of people are going to be vacationing in the New River. Plus, you also have a Hobie event in July at the end of the month, July 29th. And so we are going to talk a little bit about the New River and the context of that in this regard for those people that are coming from all over the region. As it stands now, Hobie just wrapped up its event on Cayuga in New York. And so kudos to Jackson Orr, who won that event with 109.50 inches. Crazy. Ewing Minor, 189.25, and Ryan Nye, 188.50. We had all five of our Hobie BOS fantasy picks finish in the top 25. So that was kind of cool. That was a pretty one. That was probably the easiest one, really to break down. I think based on the anglers and based on a lot of knowledge and based on a lot of locals and a lot of people. And the New River very well may be the same, but the New River has already gotten a lot of local interest. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this is the first major national kayak event that would be kayak bass fishing, Hobie Bass Open Series, and Bassmaster Kayak Series event ever on the New River. So that's what we like to see. A lot of people hate me chiming in all the time because I'm just not supportive of keep going back to the same lakes, like going back to Chickamauga, going back to Gunnersville, going back to back. I can understand maybe in Florida and Texas, but in on the Tennessee River, there's so many other river systems that we could be utilizing for kayak fishing tournaments that will really highlight what kayak fishing is all about. Okay, you don't have to follow the boater series everywhere. We've got great rivers that have never been touched. The James River is a phenomenal fishery that has not been fished. The tidal, to my knowledge, has not really been tapped by any of these trails for largemouth bass, and bass boaters go there. MLF goes there, and those things, as well as the Upper James. Okay, the Upper James is a phenomenal smallmouth fishery. I mean, that's right there on the cusp. Okay, if you look at citations, that's what drives your engine. Okay, if you look at citation smallmouths in Virginia, it's the New River and the Upper James, and they rival Susquehanna. Now, I say this a lot, and I catch a lot of flack, and I catch a lot of heat. I get called a homer, I get called of all that stuff. I fish Susquehanna a ton, mates. Okay, and you're going to catch a lot of fish, and you're going to catch a lot of fish on the New River during the summertime. Okay, but when we're talking about quality citation size smallmouth, I'm not seeing it. Okay. You can go and catch 60, 70, 80 Susquehanna smallies. It's an awesome trip. But most of those fish are going to be in 12 to 16 inch range. Okay. There are 18s. There are citation smallmouths in Susquehanna. Don't need to blow up my messages or blow up the comment section. Okay. I'm just saying reported. Now, not everybody reports their stuff. So that's, that's true too. But of the reported citations, okay, we know where the New River and the Upper James stands, okay, in our region, okay, and then we also know what a lot of these lakes up in the Northeast stand, which are really quality, and we certainly know what the St. Lawrence stands, okay, where they come in. But we're going to talk New River here. We're going to talk about some of the day floats for you, okay, but we're going to use the boundaries in this discussion so we can kind of double dip here. Some of the guys are interested in fishing a Hobie event on July 29th, and then other people who are just going to be fishing during the summertime. But we're just going to start up. So if you have any questions below where I'm talking about, you can get with me offline, and I can put you in contact with individuals that are dialed in, or I can get the information to you in terms of some day floats closer down towards Radford, and down towards North Carolina, because the New River runs from North Carolina up through Virginia and into West Virginia. Okay. So we're going to start with Eggleston. Okay. Eggleston, Virginia Ingalls Landing is your southern boundary. So let's take a look at what Hobie's has to say. Okay. For its event. So we can kind of all stay on the same page here as we kind of like step through this. So July 8th begins the off-limits period if you would like to fish that Hobie event on the New River. It is headquartered in Beckley, West Virginia. So it's quite a ways north of where we're starting here. Okay, this is pretty. It's a massive river, mates. The boundaries here are pretty uh, uh, wide, long. If you want to look at it that way in terms of the river. Okay. So I'm going to look on my phone. July 8th, off limits begins. Anglers are no longer allowed on the water in any capacity. Hiring, communicating, receiving information from guides is no longer allowed through the end of the event. Okay. So if you're watching this video, I mean, even though this stuff doesn't really apply, but you'd be surprised how people will, try to push envelopes in terms of what's communication, what's not communication. I don't consider this to be communication. This is YouTube, but okay. Just keep that in mind. Guides certainly can't get any information from any guides. Okay. On the river. Public information from a guide that is available to anyone, like a website or social media posts, are allowed to be utilized. That would be this. So I've had a lot of people ask those questions about whether or not I'm giving juice away to people and people are utilizing it and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't apply. Thank you, Hobie, for putting that into their clarification for the 2023 season. Waters that are out of event boundaries are not considered off limits at this time, so you can fish any of those. Anywhere else on the New River outside of these boundaries and not be penalized for fishing within the limit period, if that makes sense to you guys. Hope it does. July 14th, refund process begins at 6 p.m. This is the last opportunity to request a partial refund, 70%. Keep in mind, just because I had a bunch of people blow me up, okay, about a month and a half ago. Hobie has changed its refund policy for 2023. Evidently, Hobie had a considerable amount of refunds last year. So what they have done is they have lowered the percentage of refund that you will get if you ask or request a refund 2 weeks out. Okay, I think it used to be 1 week out as well. If I'm not mistaken, it might have. I don't know about that, but it used to be 80%. Got an 80% refund if you couldn't make the event and you notified them within a certain amount of limit period. It's now 70%. So keep in mind, 10% difference from last year to this year if you didn't know that. So if that sneaks up on you and bites you in the butt, that can be kind of it's $295 this year as well to register for a Hobie event. Last year was $265. So just keep those things in mind. Always double check on the Hobie website. Get the information that you need. July 14th, like I said, no refunds will be processed after that date. So if you need for some reason if you're not fishing that event after July 14th, you're SOL in terms of a refund. And most likely, your name is going to stay on that registration for Hobie, okay, even though you're not fishing it, all right? There have been a lot of issues with that over the last year or two that people have raised that haven't really been answered, but your name is going to stay on the so you're going to be part of the mix of 150, 175, or 200 anglers, but you're really not there fishing. So just I don't know what that process is, but your name's probably going to stay on there, and it's going to look like you got double gooses. Okay, goose eggs. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I've had a lot of people message me about that. My name, I for other tournaments, not Hobie, but I'm not fishing the event. I got a refund, but my name is still on the registration. Well, they do that because they, either Time or Tourney X or Fishing Chaos or whoever, or they want to make their event look like there's more people in the event than there actually but you registered for the event, so it's kind of like they can do whatever they want. So just keep that in mind. I mean, people have, it's a business, okay? So people do what they do. July 21st, registration waitlist window closes at 7 p.m. So if you over 225 for Hobie this year, he'll be put on a wait list. And then when these people 2 weeks out get refunded, that gives you plenty of time. I like that. I mean, I know a lot of people kind of push back on it or whatever. I kind of like it because if you're on the wait list and someone does refund 2 weeks out, that gives you 2 weeks to kind of get, okay, now I'm in. Now I got to plan, get off work, do whatever you got to do. So I kind of like that 2 week window myself. I know a lot of people were upset about it, but it is what it is. But I think it actually benefits you if you're on the wait list because then hey, look, okay, now I'm in. Let the family know, let the wife know, the husband know, whatever it is, that you're going to be fishing that weekend. July 22nd, official practice window begins. So everything before July 22nd, between the 8th and the 22nd is off limits within these boundaries, okay? and which means everything north of, I'm just going to say this, everything north of Eggleston. Okay. If you're fishing below, in Virginia, below Eggleston, McCoy, all that stuff below, you're fine. That's not an off limits territory. Okay. During that time period. But just don't cross the bridge, Eggleston Road, because then you could get dinged. Trust me, someone could video you. You could put a catch on some other tournament. You could do whatever. Someone's going to find out. Trust me, mates, I cannot tell you how many messages I get about that. I've been unraveling one in a local tournament in Virginia this week with a guy who posted in his monthlies. The guy fished monthlies in Maryland and Virginia, but he posted on the state citation site that he was catching his fish in a private pond, and then he had other catches that same week and month that he posted on the state site, actually designating the actual lakes that he was fishing. So it begged the question, why didn't you just post where you were on that day instead of private pond if you weren't actually on a private pond? So I don't. I mean, if you're gonna, some people do not like to designate where they catch their citation fish, and there's a drop down menu for that, and you can put all waters. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, and it could just have been an error, but it created a lot of stink. And so now I don't care. That guy's got a bullet on his back now for the people that know who he is to watch everything he does now, because he's already been DQ'd from an event already in the past. So just keep that in mind, mates. Like, don't push your luck, okay, if you plan on fishing the Hobie event, because it's a serious national trail with AOI consequences for a lot of guys that take this stuff really, really seriously. And, you get in there and you jackpot an event, but you've been fishing in the off limits period and someone finds out about that, you can expect to be made famous. So July 28th, 4 p.m. practice window ends. Then you've got your event on that night. Board check, 7 p.m. Okay, so July 29th is actually event. 6 a.m. launch and fishing begins, okay? Your event boundaries for this Hobie event, okay? Just so everybody knows, if you're on vacation and you're there, this is why I'm doing this video, because a lot of people are going to be on vacation that last week of July, okay, in early August, okay? And you on the New River and you want to fish this event, okay? Maybe you've never fished a Hobie event before, okay? And this is a major national trail, okay? But you're still eligible to fish it, okay? Anybody can fish it. You want to make sure that you have a catch board, okay? By the way, I need to make sure I stress that. I haven't done that in some of these videos, and I apologize because it creates confusion for Hobie, and that's on me for the people who watch this channel. But you have to make sure that you have a catch board, okay? It's the only legally recognized for the trail means of measuring your fish, okay? I hate for you to get out there when you're on vacation, you catch a whole bunch of great-sized fish, and you're putting it on, or Rapala or something like that, some metal measuring device, and then you're like DQ'd. Then I look like a schmuck more than I already am. Okay. So here we go. Anglers are allowed to wade and portage in this event. That is awesome. Thank you, Hobie. I think all events should be that way. That's me. People disagree with me. I think it's a joke. I think it's stupid that they took that away, in their rules and whatever. Places like Susquehanna, any river in our region gets skinny. Shenandoah, all of them during the summertime. You should be able to do what traditionally kayaks are meant for, which is to get you in places that other people can't go, and you can pull it within 20 feet with a tether cord, and you're good to go. But every event should be like that. So thank you, Hobie, for doing that in this event. And I wish you would do it in all your events going forward. Fishing while waiting, okay? It's acceptable in this event. Upper boundary. This is where we are. Eggleston, upper boundary. Anglers can launch right here at Engle's Landing, okay, but can't fish upriver of Eggleston Road, which is right here. This technically is upriver because the James River flows in the opposite direction, okay? That's been a lot of confusion for a lot of people on my Facebook page, okay? So the river is flowing this way. It flows into West Virginia. So from right here, you've got the campground. You've got a lot of areas have asked me about places to stay up through in here, and you've got to just make sure you contact those campgrounds directly. It is the summertime. They will be slammed. So you've got 2-3 weeks to get your act together if you plan on staying at a campground. Like a lot of people I know that do that on the Susky River during the Susky events. So you've got the upper boundary is where we're going to start. Okay, the lower boundary goes all the way to the shoals above the gorge. Okay, Thurman, West Virginia, all the way up. Okay, which we covered in the other video. Okay, so you can check that out. I'll link it here. You got Bluestone Lake, which is kind of right in the middle, which I would consider to be like the middle of the boundary, south of the gorge, north of where Eggleston and the West Virginia line is. Okay. Upper Greenbrier boundary, the Highway 64 bridge in Caldwell. Anglers can't launch or fish above the bridge. They added that on. So that's a new addition here in the last few days. So the new river has a bunch of creeks and river tribs that come into it. And the Greenbrier is a phenomenal fishery, okay? And most locals and people in the region, most people outside the region have no idea. Okay, there's a few in West Virginia that are like this as well. People just don't have any idea. That's why I do a channel. That's why I've grown this channel to over 24,000 subscribers, okay? Because we like to pick these areas for people to find new water, okay? Greenbrier is a really, really great little fishery, okay? Can be dangerous. Again, a lot of these rivers, we're talking about mountain, we're talking about Appalachia and all the way up Allegheny, all the way up, okay, Pennsylvania and all those things. There is some treacherous class 3s, sometimes 4s, crazy areas of these river systems. You need to make yourself aware of where those are. In these floats, I'm just going to cover quickly today. There are a few, okay, but they're not, if you're legitimately been in a kayak, they're twos and some shoals and some ripples. You're going to be pulling out. You could very well pull if the weather stays the way though we've gotten some rain, but the weather stays normal to summer pool and we don't get any more rain, significant rain. There are going to be sections in this river that everybody's going to be pulling their kayak. Okay. That's just the way it is. And you probably should in some areas to go around some shoals and around some areas that, you just don't want to deal with inside your kayak. So yeah, we'll take a little look at that. I'll do the lower boundary was Glen boat launch was the lower boundary, okay, which is in West Virginia above the gorge. Okay, so those are your published launches. This is going to be continually be updated, and I haven't had a chance to look at it this morning, so I apologize, mates. But as it stand before, a lot of the public ramps weren't even listed on that list from Hobie. So I imagine now that Cayuga is behind them this week, and they're going to focus. Because we're going to talk about the public ramps that are just in this stretch, in the Virginia stretch. And none of those were listed, other than Ingalls Landing. None of those were listed in the Google thing. So, and they're Virginia DWR. So they're public ramps. So in any other Hobie event, they would be open, okay? But they have this thing where they have to list all their ramps, I think, if I'm not wrong, correct me. And you have to use those ramps that they list. And if you find a public ramp that's not on that list, and I will be emailing that to AJ tonight, all the public ramps that I'm aware of, because I live in the region, and cover a lot of events in the region. So, and they can choose to add them or not add them. It'll be up to their discretion. Or if you find a ramp that's not on there that you would like to get added to the list, you can do that and send it to I think it's BOS at HobieBOS.com, I think, or Gmail. BOS at, I guess somewhere. I'll figure it out and I'll post it. And so right now there are 35. Right now it's early. It's 35. Rolling into July now. It's 35 anglers registered for the event so far. That number will certainly climb. And most of those anglers so far are predominantly West Virginia guys. So a lot of local regional hammers that probably know where to find some fish. And I would imagine that Jody Queen is on this list. Let's take a look. So lots of West Virginia. Let me see what we got. Jody Queen, West Virginia. Okay, he's on the list already for this event. And why not, right? He's someone to watch for this event, mates, if you're just a fan of this kind of stuff, because he knows that river. He knows that river really well. So it'll be interesting to watch his stuff come in. If you're watching on, and you can watch on Tourney X, okay? Even if you're just a fan, you can go on tourneyx.com and then search Hobie and then drop into the Hobie Torquedo. Shout out to Torquedo for being a headline sponsor for this event. So let's put the phone down. We don't need that. We don't need the Hobie information anymore. We're going to start right here, and we're going to talk about some floats here. Easy to do for those people that are going to be on the river anyway, for summertime fun, and people that may, within the boundaries for Hobie, be able to experience a Hobie event at the same time. Just remember, I will say this, hasn't come up, but just remember that read all the rules, okay? If you're fishing with your buddy, you've never fished a kayak fishing event for Hobie or any of the trails, there's some communication things about, things you can talk about with your buddy, things you can't talk about with your buddy. Like, hey, bud, how are you catching them? Oh, I'm catching them with the whopper pole. What bait you can't say that kind of stuff. Like, what bait are you using? What bait did you use to catch that fish? Oh, I used a whopper plopper. You can't say that, okay? There are some nuances to the communication that are acceptable, but just if you're doing a little float with your buddy because you're on vacation, or your son or your daughter or whatever it is, this is a great event if you're in this area for vacation to like bring your son who's maybe interested in kayak fishing tournaments, into an event with you and go fishing. Just read that stuff. Just have a little understanding. It's mostly not pressed unless it gets too egregious. All right, so we've got Angles Landing to Pembroke. Pembroke is a ramp area that I have used myself numerous times, and I will probably do it again this month or in July coming up. It's just a really easy thing to do. Eggleston to Pembroke is about 6 miles, and you're going to go around the loop, okay? You're going to go around. Remember, we're going with the flow, and you're going to go around the bend, okay? And you've got a couple bends to this, okay? You've got some shoals there, all right? Nothing major, mates, okay? If something's class 3 or higher, I'm gonna let you know. I'll do my best to let you know. Come around the bend. See how it winds? Just a great thing, and you're going to end up at Pembroke Boat Landing right there. So it's 6 miles. You've got cliffs on the side. You got the Palisade Cliffs. I'm trying to remember. Going downstream. It's one of the most scenic you can imagine. Okay, I'm just telling you, it is absolutely beautiful, and I recommend it. You do have some twos. Trying to think during the summertime. You have at least in that section, you have at least 3 class 1s, kind of like riffles, like shoals, rock ledges, depending on how you want to characterize them. There's definitely a 2. And depending on, again, all this is depending upon any of the weather and any high water situations we're dealing with, because that changes everything. But you've got that all the way to 623. Okay, so 623 is right up here, Pembroke Boat Landing. You've got the bridge. You've also got the trestle. I call it trestle bridge, but I'm going across. Great areas to fish. Now, this tends to be where I like to fish when I'm visiting family or old college roommates or old college friends that are living down in that area. People that, or live in Blacksburg, live in Radford, pick an area. There's certainly other areas down close to Radford to fish that are definitely more productive. And that's been kind of like the knock on the Hobie boundaries by a lot of people in Virginia. But I still would encourage you to go if you're an angler, competitive angler. Your boundaries may not be in bounds, but this is how we drive more tournaments to our region. Your perfect spot, your citation stretch may not be in the boundaries, okay? I get that, but you still should support the trail. And if you don't, then don't get upset when other trails don't come if they don't hit their numbers, okay? That's how it works. That's how business works, okay? It's got to hit their numbers or they're not going to come back. And so don't be a part of that. I mean, if you're actually a kayak angler and you're fishing these other local regional events, I got some knock. I'm not going to throw shade, but I got some knock on a regional event right now because I'm like, why you scheduled an event in off-limit, off-boundary waters on the same day as Hobie? And that was intentional, and that's kind of shitty. Like, it just is. Like, why would you do that? Like, okay, that's someone trying to be above the game. Like, someone trying to and I don't, for me, I'm like, from economic development and getting more events into our region, that don't fly with me. That to me, but hey, not my call, not my trail, but I'll point it out. If you call me, if you hit me up, message me, we can have a conversation about it. I'm just not going to do it publicly on a video but I do think it's shitty. Pembroke Landing. Okay, then you've got the floats. Pembroke, little stretch right in here. Just a fun float. Pembroke to Ripple Mead. Okay, probably a dozen times, maybe more than a dozen times, mates, over the years. And this goes all the way back to the 90s. Okay. this stretch of the river. It's just a part of the river that I know, more so than a lot of the West Virginia stuff. Because you get further up into West Virginia, that's some heavy, heavy class 3 shit. I'm just going to be honest. Back then, I wouldn't have any part of it. This is a 2.5 mile float. Easy 2.5 mile float. So you can add these on. You want to do an 8 mile float? Okay, a full day. Remember the time frames. Remember, find your upload periods because you got to upload your catches if you're in Hobie. If you're just on vacation and you're fishing it. But you could go from Engles to Mead, and that's going to be about 8 miles, 8.5 miles. I mean, hey, whatever floats your boat. You can add these. You can shorten these. You can get shuttle. You can do whatever. But this one, Pembroke to Mead, is 2.5. And it is going to take you basically all class 1s. All class 1s. So no straight up float. You can exit at Whit River Bend Park before the 460 bridge. Is also a area as well as Mead. Okay, and so look how she's pretty much more flat. This is okay. It's great little islands here. Definitely eating some lunch and stuff there before you're coming up. You've got Mead right here, so it's easy 2.5 mile float, mates. Okay, nice little ramp for sure. You've also got the creek here that feeds the New River. I'm not going to get too much into that, but you definitely have a lot of creeks that feed to get foot deep in places that people can sneak back into, just like Greenbrier up here. So you got crossing the 460 bridge. You got Riverbend Park here, Mead boat ramp here. So you kind of have some options. Okay. Now, going up downriver from Mead, you're going to run Ripple to Hales Landing, which is Bluff City. You've got campgrounds on the side. That float is 8.5 miles. So you get beyond Mead, you become 2 day. Okay, because you're looking at 16 miles. Okay, if you can do that in a weekend. So you got to understand that between Mead and Hales Landing, you're looking at 8.5 miles. Estimated float time that they always have it. They say if it's 8 miles, and your float time will be probably 4 hours or so. But to me, it depends on really how much fishing you're doing. I mean, if you're fishing and picking stuff apart, that's 8 hours. That's 8 hours. So depending on when you're launching, depending on all those things, just keep that in mind. Okay. So again, 8.5 miles. This is definitely a class 1 and class 2. There's a lot of white water. You can see it right here in this image, right here through this section. There's also some shoals and stuff in that section. Section also you could come into some trout because there's trout streams like Big Stony in this stretch. Above that, it goes all the way to there's Stony Creek right there. Okay. And you go around the bend. Again, class 1s, class 2s. They kind of run along the length of this stretch. What is it? Clendenin? I always get that wrong. Shoals, they're located about 2 miles from your the takeout. Okay. There you go. Right down there. Okay. Right in through here. Okay. So depending on what the water levels are like, depending on that is, that's a strong class 2. Okay. So make sure you investigate that. You also can come into some muskie in this area, by the way. And again, this is going to wrap around back to the 460 bridge, Bluff City boat ramp. You're going to be taken out right there. So that's 8.5 miles. Okay. Now you've got Bluff City to the Narrows. I mean, I have done that. Okay. So Bluff City to the Narrows. Okay. That is 4 miles. All right. And you can do it in about an hour and a half. It depends on the flow of the river, but about an hour and a half. I mean, you can do it fast or you can do it slow. It's the way it is. And you check, and you do this, you can go and look at all these pictures of the actual river to kind of see if you're not familiar with it, what I call the intimidation level of all that. Okay. And then after that stretch you've got Narrows to Glen. Okay. So the Narrows boat ramp to Glen, which is 5.5 miles. And then you have Rich Creek to Glen, which is 4.5 miles. and then you've got Glen, Lynn to Johnson Falls, okay, more or less, all the way up. So those are your floats in the